do it. Let's do it.
Yeah, we're ready. So we'll be talking about the NBA draft lottery today. And what are the Spurs' possibilities? Maybe landing that top pick.
Yeah, 1 and 3, baby.
Hey, I'll take that because you know what? In the year prior, when they were drafting, they drafted Wemby. They only had a 14% chance of landing that number one pick, and look what happened.
Yeah.
So, never say never, right, Matt?
You just gotta pray to the basketball gods,
Prende la vela. You're gonna light up your Spurs candles if you got them.
Yeah, I got it. I did a rosary today.
Go to the church and tell them to bless the candle with holy water.
Yeah.
And there's one just around the corner from me too. Ah, Leha. He's already on it. Fuck them picks. Yeah, fuck them picks.
Well,
I want to win now.
They'll be a lot easier to trade if they're top 10 picks.
Yeah. I want to win now, so never know what it can happen. Maybe they package those picks together. Maybe they can move up. We don't know. It's going to be exciting. Exciting times for Spurs fans.
Yeah. What's up, Sam?
What's up, Sam? Thanks for joining. And Leha here in the chat, too. Thanks for joining. So we're going to have Matt here for a bit. Then he's got a heart out. Then I'm going to be joined by Pledger for a little bit as well. And I don't know, maybe Menace will start join us at some time. They have pick 6 and 9. No mames.
Welcome to another episode of the Area 210 podcast with Mike Jimenez and Joe Garcia. Make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. Join the discussion as we broadcast to you live from beautiful West San Antonio. And remember to tip your hosts as it helps the show grow.
Yeah, thanks for joining us for another episode of the Area 210 podcast. I may be joined today here by our good friend, the one and only Matt Lerma. And thanks to you. Thanks you, Matt, for joining us. We appreciate you, man. You're going to be here for a bit, so appreciate you joining us today. How you feeling?
I'm feeling good, man. It's lottery day. I'm full of optimism. So let's get it going, man.
There you go. He's so excited he dropped off and we brought him back.
I can't be contained.
Yeah. And look at Leha. Leha already on one already. Start off the chat. He says, fuck damn picks.
Well, yeah, fuck them, but we got them, Smoke them if you got them. That's what they say, right?
So let's go ahead and look at the Spurs chances, because right now, San Antonio Spurs and Spurs fans are all excited right now because the Spurs are right now going to be finding out in the evening here. I think it starts around 7 p.m. Eastern, which is about 6 p.m. our time. They're going to find out where the lottery balls are going to fall for the team. Currently, right now, the Spurs have their pick projected to be a number 8, and then they also have the Hawks pick. So San Antonio could maybe be picking 8, maybe be picking 13, 14. We don't know yet. Those are just the odds as far as what the team has right now, as far maybe being getting the 8th pick and also the 14th pick. And if we're looking at, and you're looking at this graphic that we have right now on the screen for you guys, San Antonio has a 6% chance of getting that number 1 pick. And I remember a couple years ago here, the Spurs had a 14% chance of landing that number 1 overall pick. And lo and behold, they turned that number 1 pick into Wemby. They actually got it. So we don't know where the Spurs are going to actually wind up getting those picks just yet. We're going to find out later on tonight at 6 o'clock. But the Spurs have a 6% chance right now of landing that number 1 pick. Number 2 pick at 6.34. Number 3 is 6.74. Number 4, 7.21% chance. And then they have their best odds at 19.72% of getting a 7th pick, 34.06 chance of getting a 8th pick. Number 9, 12.92. Altogether, the Spurs, right now, the odds, maybe they be forever in their favor, like the Hunger Games. Right now, they have a 26.30 chance of getting a top 4 pick. What do you say, Matt? Don't ever tell you the odds. You believe the Spurs are going
Yeah,
to get that
don't
top
tell
pick?
me the odds, man. No, I'm just excited. Like it's the lottery. It's the lottery for a reason. No one really has a good chance of winning. Like the best chance of getting that number one is a 14%. So it is a lottery. It's up for grabs. Anyone could get it. I'm just excited. There's so many possibilities, especially with 2 chances of a pick hitting in the top 5. Um, you know, People want to say fuck the picks, but they'll be a lot easier to trade if they're both top 10 picks. If the Spurs want to make a trade.
Yeah, look at this. JHNSB says Jimenez is the Kawhi Leonard of podcasting.
He's gonna be ready
Part-time.
for the playoffs, though.
Yeah, he'll be fresh. Exactly, Matt. He'll be fresh for the playoffs. Only part-time. Only a part-time podcast. Big Sean PD says, win-win situation for us. Flag or Giannis if no flag. And that's the thing, too. Right now, you had Brian Windhorst. He came out and he was talking. So was Sham Shania and all that. They were on Get Up. They were talking about Giannis, and Giannis still not decided on what he wants to do. He's going to be meeting with the Bucks. They're going to decide his future. He's a 30-year-old, NBA star at that. And a lot of the teams are going to be interested in acquiring Giannis. If he does decide, and they amicably with the Milwaukee Bucks, that he wants to go ahead and, go and seek a trade elsewhere. You have the 29 teams, that are going to be interested, all but the Bucks, because the Bucks already have Giannis right now. So they're going to be entertaining offers if, in fact, it does pan out that way. I say there's a high likelihood of Giannis wanting to go ahead and he's going to want to be traded from the Milwaukee Bucks to another team, maybe a team that's an up-and-comer, kind of like the San Antonio Spurs, where if Giannis was to join this team alongside one Wemby, the Spurs would instantly be one of those teams that would definitely be in a conversation of how far can they go? Are they going to be a championship contending team? It depends on what happens with lottery night tonight. So there's a lot of question marks, a lot of things that Spurs fans can get excited about. But, Matt, what do you think? Do you think right now that the Spurs wind up getting a top 4 pick? How do you think that's going to affect the team?
I think it'll be good. I mean, I think the Spurs are building. If the Spurs end up with the top pick, like Leha was saying after the picks, I feel like it would be good for making a trade. We could package those picks and, get a superstar player like Giannis, or we could end up with, the great white hope, Cooper Flag, but it's just like, if we get a top 4 or 5 pick, I think it's going to be great for the team. If we draft a rookie, we're just adding depth. One of the cool things about the Thunder and the Denver series is just seeing like how deep the Thunder roster is. They're playing 10 guys, and usually you don't play more than like 6, maybe 8 guys at the most in the playoffs, but they're playing 10, and everybody comes in off the bench and contributes. And I feel like if we could just add some more depth to our roster, a top 5 pick would be great.
Top 5 pick would be great, but I was thinking about this. I really put some thought into it. I'm like, man, if the Spurs get a top 5 or a top 4 pick, best player available is a shooting guard or a point guard. I wouldn't be opposed to the Spurs picking another point guard. And the reasoning behind that is, hear me out. Hear me out here. Fox right now is your starting point guard. Mm-hmm. He can't play all 48 minutes for 82 games. You have to have somebody to back him up. And why not go into the lottery if you have a top 4 pick and you have the top 4, let's say, best available player is a point guard? You need a point guard that's going to be able to back up Fox. It wouldn't be bad. I mean, it's not something that's sexy by any means. Spurs fans would probably be like another guard, kind of like me. But at the end of the day, if you think about it, they do need somebody to back up Fox. Yes, they need to address their big situation as they need somebody to back up Wemby. But again, that could be had later on in the draft, maybe in the second round. We don't know yet. We have to see exactly what's going to happen with the lottery balls tonight and where they all fall. But what do you think, Matt? If the Spurs get a top 4 pick and they waste it again. Well, by Spurs fan standards, on a point guard. Would you be upset with that move?
A little bit. Like I think when you're in that position where you're in like the top five, you got to do best player available. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of good players in this draft. It's not like last season's draft where we were happy to get Castle because he was the only player we wanted. I think there's a lot of good players in this draft. And we really need a small forward and we need a big. And I don't see why, if we have a top pick, we shouldn't use it to get what we need. Maybe you could say that, one of these point guards will be a better player overall than, a small forward that we could pick up. But at the end of the day, we're guard heavy. We're still paying Blake Wesley and Malachi Branham. So, if we get another guard, I just want to know what the situation is. Are we getting rid of all these guys? Are we going to go into next season with, 7 guards? Like what's going on?
Yeah, my consensus would be if the Spurs go into the draft, right, and they get a top 4 pick, best player available is going to be a point guard. That means that they're making moves. That means that you're not going to probably see some of your other players here on the team, Malachi, Blake, they might be gone. The thing, that's just the nature of the business. You got to make roster spots. You got to make moves, and that way you can allow some of these draft picks that you're getting to come out here and make a roster, get a roster spot on the team, and that's just the nature of the beast. But I mean, there's also chatter, like I was telling you, about the Spurs picking 2 players from the same team, and that team is Illinois, and we were talking about this. And it's interesting to me, that they have the Spurs doing this. I mean, it's not necessarily that, yes, this in fact will happen. It's just something that I'm just hearing a little bit about, and this is being reported by, some of the outlets here that are, that we know about on the internet right now. And they're talking about Kaspers Giannis and Will Riley from the University of Illinois. Spurs are kind of being linked to both these players. There's chatter that, if the Spurs get those, picks, would it be a very Spurs-like thing to do? Probably. Would it be in the best interest of the team moving forward? I don't know, man. How are you feeling about that, Matt?
If we take them, I didn't watch much Illinois basketball this season. I'm not gonna lie. But if we end up like getting later picks, if we end up say with like, the 12th and 16th pick or something, I think that's a smart move. The Spurs, going with Mitch Johnson over interviewing or whatever, they talk about continuity and all this kind of stuff. And, if you took 2 players from the same school, I think that fits the mold. I mean, it's probably like the least exciting outcome of the draft.
Yeah.
But
it's very Spurs-like,
It's very Spursy, yeah. It's the Spursiest move.
And look at this. We already got this comment. I like this one so far. Sam Salinas says, I offered Sohan as tribute because I was saying, may the odds be forever in our favor, much like the Hunger Games, that the Spurs will get the number 1 pick. And somebody's already willing to offer Sohan as tribute. I'm excited, though. I want to see what's going to happen. This is it's a very pivotal moment for the San Antonio Spurs organization and also for Spurs fans. Spurs fans want to see this team get back into playoff contention once again. It's been 6 years, now going on 7 years, as a drought that the Spurs haven't been to the NBA, let's say playoffs or even like a play-in game. It's been quite a number of seasons since they made the play-in game as well. The last time they made the play-in was in the bubble and they got bested by the Pelicans. I actually want to see the team get back in playoff contention again, get into that postseason, have Fiesta mean something more, and have that vibe back, because it seems like there's always something missing from Fiesta, and that is also the San Antonio Spurs being in the playoffs. You had Fiesta and the Spurs in the playoffs. It was synonymous. It was one thing that went together. Even when you're out there at the Fiesta Flambeau parade, the night parade, everybody getting up for, the Spurs they're playing that night, and you even had the floats coming by. They were giving you like updates on the scores, what's going on with the team, and the fans in the crowd cheering. Everybody wearing their Spurs gear, Spurs flags scattered throughout the city on the buildings as you would look downtown. I want to see that again. It's a different vibe. The city it comes alive and everybody's excited. And you love to see all the Spurs gear. I miss seeing the bootleg gear. That's what
Oh
happens when the Spurs go into the playoffs. You see the flags being sold on the corner of the streets here over here on Marbach and Military Drive. The bootleg T-shirts, all the gear. That's what I like seeing. I miss all that, and I want to see the Spurs get back to being in that play-in or even get back to being in playoff contention. I think
Yeah.
they're almost there, Matt, and there may be a couple pieces away from that, but this draft tonight will determine, is this Spurs team going to be good enough to get back, to playoff contention again? Do you think they're one or two pieces away, or do you think they need like a couple more pieces?
I think that they're one piece away. I think that they're like, we have to get our starting lineup locked down, especially with the way the cap and the aprons and all that work. The bench players can, they can be traded and moved around, acquired, but you want to lock in that starting lineup. And I feel like, we got Fox, we got Wemby, we got Castle. So we have, Sohan, and we need one more person to lock it in. If you want to get rid of Sohan in a trade for someone like Giannis or something, then so be it. But then, we still need one more person. So that's one player we need to lock in our starting lineup. And then, the rest is playing chess, making the right trades here or there for the backup players. But, we got to get that starting lineup. So whether it's through a trade or through this draft, I think that we're one good player away. That's why I said we should go for a small forward instead of, another point guard, because that's what we need is a small forward.
Yeah, so, I'm showing the graphic and everything here from Draft Lottery. Is this going to be the definition of what we hear from Jerry Jones and the Cowboy? All in. I want to see them do something. I want to be all in, with the San Antonio Spurs. I want them to make some moves. I know that, Brian Wright's going to be looked at right now in the front office. Spurs fans are going to be looking at him to make some moves here in the draft. It wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility to me, quite honestly, if the Spurs wind up packaging both picks and trying to move up in the draft. I wouldn't mind them doing something like that. I mean,
I wouldn't mind it either.
Maybe they can go from that 8th pick, and if the lottery balls fall where they may, and the Spurs wind up getting a 7th pick instead of the 8th pick, and they're still around 13th or 14th with the other pick from the Hawks there. I don't know, man. Packaging those two picks together with maybe some draft capital, because they have a ton of picks left anyway. Moving up, maybe they could get into that break the top 5, break the top 4. That to me would be very interesting, going with quality over quantity. You want to get somebody who's going to be NBA ready and can contribute to the team right away. Unfortunately, if that number 4 pick is either a power forward or a shooting guard or a point guard, it's going to be there's some very disgruntled Spur fan out there, including myself, because we want to see a big paired alongside Wemby. The Spurs need somebody to solidify that center position for Wemby and kind of open this floor up, space the floor a little bit for them.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And just to react to some of the comments, in my mind, I don't think Devin Vassell's a long-term starter for the team. I know he was a starter last season, but I don't know if that's going to be the case going forward. So, especially when you have Castle and Fox in the starting lineup, I don't know if there's room for Devin Vassell unless he really ups his defense or whatever.
And look at that, Mexican Junior saying Devin not a starter anymore.
Yeah, and I just think that the Spurs really need to make some moves, just get the team going, and I feel like the Spurs have a really good shot in this lottery to either package the picks for a superstar player, and bring in someone from the outside, or to package, picks to move up. If we end up with like the 10th and 15th pick, we could package that with like an Atlanta swap for next year to move up. There's just so much opportunity for the Spurs to make a move, and I feel like Brian Wright is the type of person who will make a deal. We've seen him make deals in the last couple of years on draft night, so maybe we'll do it again this year. I know today's only the lottery, but I'm just hoping for the best.
And look at this. Thank you, Big Sean PD, for watching. We appreciate you. He says, our foolish front office will package picks to get more future picks dated for after Wemby when he retires.
Yeah.
I hope not. I'd rather them get somebody now to go ahead and help this team. As I stated, it's been some time since we've seen the Spurs back into playoff contention. I want to see the team make the playoffs. I want to see them get, past the play-in. I don't just want to have a consolation prize. If they're going to get a high pick, it's not just making the play-in and, you get bounced right away. It's making the play-in, winning, and then moving on,
Yeah, it's rough because the Spurs were in the playoffs for so long that it became almost a part of the city identity.
Yeah. Was it 18 seasons, Matt? Something like that?
18. Yeah. In a row. There was no break. So I just feel like it just became a part of life. Like when the Spurs missed the playoffs in 2020, right? We didn't make it to the playoffs. That was the bubble year. It was a weird year anyway. But I just remember talking to people being like, this is the first time in my life the Spurs haven't made the playoffs. There's people. So I get it. I want the Spurs to be back in the playoffs. I thought we should have been in the playoffs this season, but it wasn't in the cards. But hopefully we make the right moves to get back. Like you say, there might be some pain involved getting rid of players that we want, and that we love and all that stuff. But that's the cost of doing business. I remember my mom actually cried when they traded Malik Rose. so
that was weird too, Matt, because that happened like right in the middle of the day. I remember correctly. It's like breaking news: the Spurs have traded Malik Rose, and everybody was like, "Oh, my heart!" It's like a gut punch there.
Yeah, so I mean, it's nothing that as Spurs fans we haven't been through before. But if you are a Spurs fan, you're hoping for the best picks possible. And if we end up with later lottery picks, past 10, hopefully we can package them together for something else. Because even though this is a much deeper lottery, I don't necessarily see anybody in the later rounds that I'm just super excited about. Obviously, if we pick up somebody, then great. Let's go ahead and welcome them in and all that kind of stuff. But there's no one, past 10, in the projected, in the projections, John Giovanni or whatever, that just really excites me. That's the guy we need. So, if we end up with later picks, then, hopefully we can make a good deal and trade for them. But if we get some top picks, let's get either the best player available or package them for a superstar.
Yeah. And we also got an incoming super chat here from Sam Salinas. Thank you, Sam. You all, by giving us these super chats, help the show go and grow. So we appreciate the support. He says, without the injuries, this team is a play-in. Bench is weak. Don't give up the farm for Giannis. On the downside, and good for 2 years at best. Don't want to end up in the same place in 3 years. I think I understand what he's saying. He's like, don't give up the farm for a win now mentality, and then you give away your future. And I understand that aspect of things. It's a business. And yes, if you go ahead and get the win now mentality and you don't make it past, let's say, the first round of the playoffs while you have said player like Giannis, it would be a big disappointment, because if you get a player like the caliber of Giannis, the consensus would be you'd want to go ahead and be in a Western Conference final kind of situation, maybe even getting into the NBA Finals with Giannis at the helm.
It would have to be a short-term deal, which is the thing that sucks, because with the salary cap and the aprons and stuff. If we're not ready, like if the Spurs aren't like this is the team that's gonna win us championships over the next 5 years, it's gonna get really hard to start making moves. Like if we get Giannis and we're paying De'Aaron Fox, and then Wemby signs that extension, like the team is pretty much going to be locked in with whoever we have at that point in time once Wemby signs that extension. So if we bring in a superstar player like that, like we really have to be like, this is the group that's going to take us to the promised land. You can't still be building at that point, So if we were to make that type of a move, it would have to be like a well thought out, like serious, like plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D type of contingencies on top. You just because once you make that move for Giannis, like you really are locking yourself into your roster. So you have to make sure that everyone that you have is who you want long term.
Look at hand over fist. He says something that the great Chris Duell used to say when we're on Spurs React. Death, taxes, and Spurs in the playoffs. And hand over fist says, used to be the taxes, Spurs in the playoffs. They were synonymous, hand in hand. And you have an incoming chat here from Grandmaster Choda saying, Matt, will you cry if Sohan is dealt? Because I know how you've been a Sohan stan.
Well, I do like Jeremy Sohan, and I think that he is a really good defensive basketball player, and hopefully his shot comes along. But if we trade him, we trade him. Like, it is what it is. I don't like it when people talk shit about like certain players when I feel like the player themselves is trying their best. So of course I'm going to stand up for Jeremy, but like, I'm not like some Jeremy stan, like, or whatever. But I just, if we trade him, we trade him. If he's here, I hope the best for him. Well, I hope the best for him either way, but I'd rather him be here than on another team.
True that. Hey, I know that you got a heart out here. We've already gone 3 minutes over, man. So I don't know if it's time for you to bounce or you want to stay for a little bit longer. It's up to you.
No, I got to get going. I got to drive across town, but thank you for having me. Light your velas and say a rosary, and I don't know, do whatever you do. Just let's put the good energy out into the universe and hope for the best tonight.
They can get
Have
that
a good
top
one,
pick.
guys.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Appreciate you, man. Make sure you go follow him on the X, man. I'll see you later.
Later.
Yeah, you can go ahead and follow Matt. Matt's a good guy. Thank you so much again, Matt, for joining us today in the absence of one Michael Jimenez. As everybody's alluding to now, they're wondering where Mike is at. What happened to Mike? He's just probably busy right now. He's probably busy working. He's got things he's got to take care of right now. He'll probably be back here tomorrow in studio. You can go ahead and follow Matt. I'll go ahead and share his X handle here. Again, he's a great guy. We do appreciate him. Friend of the show. Does a lot of good work out there. You can follow Matt right now. He's at Matt Lerma PS _PS. So make sure you go ahead and follow him. And we're going to go ahead and pause real quick here as we go ahead and give some love to one of our sponsors here. And that's going to be MCS General Contracting. MCS General Contracting, more than 30 years of combined experience in concrete placement. They are the best in the business, honest pricing, high quality work. They get going on house foundations, driveways, concrete patio decks. If you want to extend the deck, extend the driveway. If you're a business and you need to put together a slab, a parking lot, or other concrete placement services or sidewalks, reach out to MCS General Contracting at 210-774-9155. They're confident in their skills, so give Chris Leha over at MCS General Contracting a call at 210-774-9155. And thank you for being a sponsor of this show. Yeah, so shout out to MCS General Contracting. We appreciate you and all that you do for the show here. And they also power the chat. If you want to go ahead and get the best in the business, make sure you go ahead and call Chris Leha. His number is going to be, and I'll go ahead and put it here on the screen for you guys, 210-774-9155. Again, go ahead and contact Chris Leha for all your general contracting needs, as they specialize in that diamond hard concrete. If you want it done right the first time, not the cheapest, but done right the first time, make sure you do call MCS General Contracting. Again, the number is 210-774-9155. 9155 for all your contracting needs there. And we're going to be joined here shortly, too, by James Pledger. He'll be joining us here. Alamo on the right said, Mike's probably working. He's reading the tea leaves. Mike's hanging out with Tom Cruise. I wish he was hanging out with Tom Cruise. Go make sure you go in and tell him about the Area 210 podcast. Oh God, man. How much would Matt offer for Sohan's renewal? Oh God, man. That's the thing with Sohan, man. It's like Spurs fans become enamored with Sohan, but at the end of the day, he's all right. But is he really worth? And we've talked about that. Is he going to be worth like $17 to $19 million? Because that's what he's going to probably garner in the open market. So that's just something to think about. If you're a Spurs fan, can you get somebody cheaper that can do what Sohan does for this team? I don't know, man. You got to go ahead and see what is out there. That's the thing. And we do have, like I said, I looked at the Tankathon before I came out here and did the show with you guys. And I was like, you know what? Let's go ahead and see what Tankathon says. So I did the simulation. And right now, when I did the simulation, the Spurs moved up and they have the number 2 pick. And they also have the number 4 pick by way of Atlanta. So that was just me playing around with the Tankathon. I'll go ahead and simulate again for you guys, and let's see where the Spurs land this time. Oh, and look at what happened here. They got the number 8 pick and the number 14 pick. It's one of those things, man. Again, it's just fun to play with this, simulation here. We'll do it one more time. It didn't fare any better for the Spurs. They actually went down on this one. They got the 9th pick at this point in time, and they got the 14th pick. So if you got to ask me if I'm a betting man, I'd still say that the Spurs' chances of getting that number 8 and number 14 overall pick are pretty high. I do think that they can go ahead and move up, maybe 2 spots or so, realistically. But again, the Spurs were at one point in time, they only had a 14% chance of getting that number 1 overall pick, and they turned that number 1 pick into Wemby. Anything can happen in the NBA draft lottery. That's why everybody's going to be watching with anticipation. And if the Spurs name doesn't get called at number 8, doesn't get called at number 7, doesn't get called at number 6, we're at number 5, and their name doesn't get called, watch out. Spurs fans are going to get excited like myself, going to lose their minds if the Spurs wind up getting like a top 4 pick in the NBA draft lottery. I couldn't even imagine that happening, man. To me, that would be out of the realm of possibility, but nonetheless, it's still an exciting day for us Spurs fan. And I'm going to share this tweet that I saw by Jacob Toby. He put it out on the X, and he put, how is Spurs Nation? He goes, how are we feeling? Any luck in the air? I believe we have some luck in the air today. And he was saying that their highest percentage chance is 34.47% to get the 8th pick. And he says, again, it's like I have been telling you guys as well, remember in 2023, Spurs had a 14% chance, and they got Wemby. So anything is possible. But we'll see if the Spurs decide to go ahead and make some moves. Maybe they'll go ahead and trade said picks and move up in the NBA draft lottery. Because like our good friend Craig Leha is always saying, F them picks. And I agree with him. F them picks. You can't take them all with you. You have them there. They're tradable assets. Why not use them? Move up in the NBA draft lottery, or move up in the lottery right now and see what you can get. Maybe you can get a better quality player that's going to be NBA ready. Pair them alongside both Fox, Wemby, and Castle, and see what you got. I mean, you do have Harrison Barnes going to be returning. CP3 more than likely is not going to be returning with this team. I don't know if he's going to retire. Still contemplating his decision on that in that regard. So Spurs are going to go ahead and need point guard. I know everybody's looking to Castle, but there's been chatter here too in the chat. Is Castle ready to go ahead and be a point guard? Who's to say? I think he just needs to get maybe more comfortable at playing the position that he plays currently. This is only going to be his second year, so we're going to see how he fares in this second year. We would hope that he had a better showing, but you never know. You could have that sophomore slump. It's happened before, but hopefully not with Castle. I think Castle's going to have a better season out here. But what are you guys thinking? What do you think the chances are that the Spurs are going to get that number 1 overall pick again? Are you going to be lighting the velas, prende la velas, lighting the Spurs candles? What are you all going to do? Are you all superstitious on this NBA draft lottery day? Are you all going to do anything that you normally do to see if you can sway the NBA lottery gods in the Spurs' favor so they can go ahead and get a top pick, maybe two top picks? What if the Spurs don't get that 14th pick and it turns into like a top 8 or top 10 pick? And then you get a number 4 pick. Man, what are the odds of that ever happening? But I'd be excited if that, in fact, was what happened with the San Antonio Spurs. Like I said, I want to see the team do well, but at what cost? What is it going to cost us? You know, that's the thing with Spurs fan. We always have to understand that it's a business, and what is it going to cost the team to get better right away? This is what July 26th is. A lot of what ifs. Yeah, there's a lot of what ifs. It said, I think CP3's retiring was what Gilbert P is saying. I think he's going to retire too. I think once CP3 talks it over with his family, I mean, he's had a good run. He's got nothing else to prove. He knows he's not going to win an NBA championship at this juncture, but that's okay. You've had a great career. Maybe he's going to go ahead and call it a day, spend more time with the family. Maybe he'll get a cushy job somewhere as an announcer for the 4-letter network or something. So we'll see. What's up, Pledge? What's going on, man?
What's happening, brother? How you doing?
Doing good. We're excited here now because it's the NBA draft lottery is upon us, and we're talking about possibilities and what's going to happen. You know, the Spurs.
I thought we were talking about why Mike's missing like his 48th show of the year. Like, dude's got more vacation time than God.
Yeah, he's on what do you call it? Load management. But we're talking about the Spurs and what are the possibilities of them getting like maybe a top 4 pick? Because we were talking about the odds, and they have like a 34% chance of getting that number 8 pick, and the other pick from by way of the Hawks here is going to be
8 and 14.
8 and 14, so they have a high chance of getting that 14th pick.
I'm gonna say this, Spurs fans. And it's not because when you win because you've got the best odds. Like, I know San Antonio's had lucky lottery odds, but it's always when they have the best odds, they have the lucky lottery odds. Other years, you end up right where you're supposed to be, and you draft Sohan, Primo, and Vassell. Like, that's when you're that far down, especially with that Atlanta pick. That Atlanta pick's not going to go from 14 to 1 2 years in a row. That is... You want to talk about massive odds. That's the biggest odds. If that Atlanta pick conveys 2 years in a row to go from the worst to the number 1 odds, I mean, at that point, God is smiling upon this city and this franchise. But, I say it like this because I say expect like 8 and 14, and if something else happens, cool. But, like, don't set your hopes up so high that you're going to be crushed when it doesn't hit. Because the odds are it's not going to hit this time.
Yeah. You know what I've been hearing? The chatter is going now. You know, we're starting to get more and more things coming out. Everybody's reporting different things, and they have their own simulations when it comes to what are teams going to pick, at said positions. At number 14, they have the Spurs now. And this is from Bleacher Report I saw. They have them picking, by way of the Hawks, they have them picking Kasparis Jakonis, a point guard / shooting guard out of Illinois.
Yeah.
I'm like, and I was opposed to the Spurs getting another point guard, but I'm just like, you know what? At the end of the day, Pledge.
Don't be.
I know, and this is what I was getting at. It's like, at the end of the day, Fox, he can't be playing the full 48 minutes for 82 games. He needs a backup.
I mean, you still got Castle, too, who's a point guard. But my thing, and don't be, is in the NBA, especially in the NBA, you don't draft for need. You draft the best player. Because if the best player hits, you can flip that player for what you need. Or if it hits gangbusters like a Dame Lillard did late in the draft or later in the lottery, then you can turn that player into so much more than you ever could by drafting, I need a big, so I'm taking a big. Don't do that in the NBA. It is the best scenario. Take the best player because you need, especially with that point guard, a point guard can play shooting guard. That point guard can be a 2 that shoots 41% from 3, and all of a sudden you found the floor spacer that you so desperately need on this team. He's just he gives you extra versatility in terms of your lineup and being able to have multiple people like you do with Castle and Fox to be able to bring the ball up or initiate the offense or do things that are necessary when they try and take one of your better players away.
Yeah. They're asking, where's the watch party for the lottery? You're talking to the man right now. You want to go and watch the
It's
draft
at the
lottery?
Root Pub, baby.
There you go.
Now,
At
I
the
said
Root
don't
Pub.
get your hopes up, but if you're one of those guys that believes it, like you're gonna manifest it, and I'm about it because I manifested Wemby like the whole way. It's like they're getting it. They are getting it. And guess what happened? The Root picked up everybody's open tab as soon as the ping pong ball fell. Guess what? They're doing it again. And you got two chances this year. So might as well just go to the Roo, have a couple drinks. You're going to be doing that anyway. And if luck falls on your side, all of a sudden, it's free.
Yeah, especially, like they said, if they hit that number, get the number 1 overall pick, the Roo Pub will take care of the tabs. So there you go.
Blitz will be broadcasting there live from 2 to 6, taking you straight up to the start of the draft lottery. So get out there, watch the Blitz, have a couple drinks, have some food, man. Get yourself a Wemby burger. Enjoy the time. And then once those ping pong balls possibly fall in your favor, you just had yourself free eating drinks for a few hours. So it's gonna be a good day regardless, and might as well just go ahead and head out to the Roo and have yourself a good time.
You know what's funny, dude? I turned on the TV this morning because I woke up extra early for some reason. So I turned on the TV and I was watching Fox 29, right? And what did they show? They showed you guys flyer from 94.1.
Oh, yeah.
And they were talking about
that was an insane day, man. Like, hey, they did this thing where, if they get the number 1 pick and they had the tie for the best odds with 2 other teams, I believe it was the Rockets and Pistons, if I remember correctly. Rockets and Pistons.
Yeah.
That year.
Rockets and Pistons,
and you ended up nailing it. And so, boom, all of a sudden you're picking number 1, you get Wemby, and the fortunes of this entire franchise moving forward changed, which is why this past year was such a disappointment, especially after you traded for De'Aaron Fox. But then you had the Wemby blood clot, you had the Fox thumb injury, like all of it just kind of fell apart in the most catastrophic way. But you've got a really, really, really good nucleus coming back this year. And I feel like this is a team that is a few pieces away. And if you somehow manifest getting Cooper Flag, oh my God, the Wemby reaction was crazy. The Cooper Flag reaction will be insane because you're not expected to get that one.
Yeah. Can you imagine the media coverage, though? The Spurs already got Wemby, right? They had media coverage like crazy for Wemby. Then they went ahead and they get Castle. Then they get all this media coverage for Castle, Rookie of the Year. Then if they somehow manage to get the number 1 overall pick and Flag comes to call into San Antonio, I mean, it's going to be nuts.
That's it, man. All of a sudden, you got yourself a dynasty ready to take over. The most interesting thing for me when it comes to the Spurs offseason, more so than the NBA draft lottery, is what do the Spurs do? Because there are multiple examples right now in the NBA of maybe going after the big fish isn't the best way to go. And it's going to be very interesting to see how the Rockets handle this offseason because of that same thing. You look at, say, the Celtics. They made minor moves. They went and got a Porzingis. They went and got, Drew Holiday and Derek White, but they're all pieces that fill in around Tatum and Brown, right? They didn't go out and get a massive superstar to be the number 1 or 1A to whatever superstar they already have. You look at the fact that the Oklahoma City Thunder, finished second in the West last year, and they end up running it back. And the only thing they do is go and add an Alex Caruso and an Isaiah Hartenstein. Minor moves, but moves that needed to be made to fill out that half of the roster, right? Can the Rockets, will they do the same thing? Will they keep this young core together to help it grow after being second in the West this year, or are they going to go after the big splash? And the same can be said for San Antonio. Do you continue to grow this roster, or do you go for the big Giannis or KD or Booker or big name splash, or do you supplement with smaller moves like maybe trading of a sell and draft picks for Cam Johnson to supplement the 3-point shooting and defensive player you so desperately need on the wing, or maybe go in free agency and get a Brook Lopez who gives you that floor spacing and defensive ability, or go get a Naz Reid, the 6th man in Minnesota that can fill in on this roster. None of those guys are the dude, but they are what they need to surround the dudes on this Spurs roster.
Yeah, the role player, and that's the thing that I think that we're missing on this Spurs roster.
We need to build
now.
a team.
Yeah, and you can't. Do you see the thing is when you build a team, you can't have all superstars on the team. You need to have your role players that play their role and play it well, whether it be defense, rebounding, shooting a 3-point from beyond the arc, 3-point shot from beyond the arc, and that's just their job. Get open, knock down an open three, your money. It helps spread the floor, and it helps the team get better. And I think that's exactly what the Spurs are needing. So to me, making smart picks, like you had just told us about, is the right move moving forward. Again, you can't always have a team loaded with superstars. As we've seen, it doesn't always pan out the way that you envision. And they were talking about Giannis earlier on today, and it was on the 4-letter networks and everything. ESPN, they were talking about him on Get Up and talking about him with Stephen A. Smith and whatnot. And Giannis still hasn't made a decision on what he's going to do. He still needs to go ahead and meet with the Bucks. But there's some big names out there, and if Giannis decides he wants to part ways with the Bucks and it's amicable, and he's like, I'm going to ask for a trade, there's going to be 29 teams that are going to be interested in his services. So he's going to be a talent that's going to be highly sought after. And
you don't do what the Mavericks did. You open it up to the league to get the highest value for said superstar.
Yeah. And Stephen A. Smith was saying that the best fit for Giannis would be coming to play in San Antonio. And I've heard other people say that same thing, that Giannis would be best suited to be, to go ahead and leave if he leaves the Bucks to come play in San Antonio. I could see the similarities between the cities as far as them being smaller markets. Maybe he's more comfortable in that type of environment. He could come to San Antonio. You already know who your coach is. You're going to be moving forward with one Mitch Johnson, who is actually going to be at the NBA draft lottery tonight representing the San Antonio Spurs. So Spurs fans have that to look forward to. But Giannis, you think he'd be a good fit with this team?
I mean, yeah, he fits. It depends what you give up, more than likely, especially if they do this right. They're getting a bunch of draft picks and players like, Vassell and Castle, maybe a Sohan or a Keldon as well. Like, you're getting max value for him. And to think that you could potentially pull this off without including Castle in this deal, it would be very, very hard, because there are teams like the Rockets who have a Jalen Green that they can offer, plus Cam Whitmore, plus, Reed Shepherd, who was the 3rd overall pick last year. Like, they've got the assets to trump whatever you're offering if it comes down to a bidding war. So, yeah, unless Giannis physically forces their hand on where he wants to end up, which I don't feel, that's not a Giannis thing. He may give them a group of teams so that they can extract max value, because I don't think he would want to hurt the franchise in that way. Yeah, you're likely going to have to give up a Castle to get a Giannis in return, plus those picks. So it's going to be very, very interesting. And of course, the draft lottery is going to shape, like, let's say they end up with 8 and 14.
Yeah.
Do you want 8 and 14, or do you want to package those picks and try and go get somebody? Maybe not a Giannis, but maybe a Cam Johnson.
And the thing is, people are in here saying Castle's untouchable. He's not untouchable.
Nobody's
That's
untouchable.
the thing. Yeah,
Wemby's not untouchable. If someone wants to offer you their first round picks for the next 20 years, all unprotected, and 3 superstars in return, it's going to be hard to turn that down. Like, I love Wemby too. Like, you can't ever say someone is untouchable because everybody's touchable at the right price.
Yeah, there's a lot of, I guess, chatter here with Spurs fans when they're talking about who's untouchable, who isn't untouchable. And the thing that I kind of remind them about is that everybody on this team is a tradable asset, as you had just said as well. And you look at years past and what the Spurs have done. They said, oh, they're never going to get rid of Malik Rose or Avery Johnson. They traded them. Same thing happened with Sean Elliott. He was traded.
Now, they aren't Wemby.
Yeah, they're not Wemby, but I'm saying at the end of the day, the one thing they had in common is that they were fan favorites, right? So it hurts.
You're
when you have
doing
to
yourself
trade
a
said
disservice if you deem anyone untouchable.
and that's what Spurs fans do a lot of times because they get enamored with these players. And I've always gone on and said it's a business at the end of the day. Everybody is a tradable asset. And if you can go ahead and trade said player that's a fan favorite to get something else in return that's going to help this team in the future or going to help the team now, they're going to make that trade. They're going to do that. And unfortunately, it might have to go ahead and package another fan favorite in order to make room and make that happen. It's a business at the end of the day. Nobody is untouchable. Even Wemby, as you had stated, if they get a good haul for Wemby, they would pull that trigger, no doubt.
Now, to be fair, what it would take was unlikely to be met by any team in what it would take to get certain player like Wemby. But not untouchable.
Yeah, it would be a high asking price, no doubt.
It would be a ridiculous and absurd asking price. But if someone's stupid enough to meet said price, then you have to at least consider it.
Yeah, I heard somebody on the Twitter or the X, should I say, saying this, and I've seen this on the X and on social media everywhere. I got to ask you the question because you're a straight up guy, and if we ask you something, you're gonna give a straight up answer. There's been a lot of chatter here from Spurs fans saying, is Wemby a generational player?
It's yet to be determined. He has the opportunity to be a generational player and talent. He has shown flashes of that ability, especially on the defensive end. But,
nope, we lost him. We'll get him back here shortly. But yeah, I've seen the chatter out here on social media, and it's been in Facebook groups and on the Twitter, on the X as well. All right, there you are. You back.
To be fair, I would say, he still has a lot to live up to that generational bill. But to be fair, I don't think you can deem anybody that this early in their career at any point in time.
Yeah, it's just going to be his third season in the league, and his second season was, plagued by injury, unfortunately, because he had that deep vein thrombosis, and that kind of sidelined him. Unfortunately for him, he didn't meet the criteria to win Defensive Player of the Year because he didn't play the 60-plus games or whatever that he needed to, But I'm on the fence with you, too. It's like, I think he's a very good player right now. As far as him being generational, I think the verdict's still out there. As
Possibly.
There's still a lot of room to grow. We don't know what his ceiling is right now.
And it's going to be hard because he hasn't had really a chance to flash that either. So it all comes down to basically when it's all said and done. And that's the unfortunate matter with it all is, he's a potentially generational talent, but you can't know that this early literally into anybody's career. At this point, you're all making assertions about a person's career and how it turns out. Like what happens if that deep vein thrombosis, God forbid, shorten his career?
Yeah,
right.
That would be unfortunate. But I think right now, Pledge, the thing is that this NBA draft lottery is, I think, going to be instrumental for the Spurs. It's pivotal for them right now. They're at this crossing point, and what's going to happen today is going to affect the team's future. And I think right now, the excitement with Spurs fans is that they're so excited about the possibilities that can be, because they haven't seen the Spurs back in the playoffs for quite some time. They haven't even seen them get to a play-in. And I think they're just a couple pieces away from making that happen. I think that's why Spurs fans are so excited about this NBA draft lottery. Yeah, I want the excitement again. Remember, Pledge, when you would go downtown, Fiesta and Spurs were synonymous with one another? And I was saying it was just a different vibe in the air. There was this
playoff
electricity.
time.
Yeah, playoff time. I want that again. I miss it. I miss
We
going to
all
a
missed
bar
it.
and watching
We
the
missed
game.
it.
Yeah.
I miss going to a Spurs game and, whether I was covering it or whether I was just going to watch it and knowing that, this is, I'm looking at a team that is either gearing up or trying to, determine playoff seeding. And it's been 7 years since we've had that kind of feeling in San Antonio. And I think everybody's just thirsty because this was a team that had never even missed a playoff in consecutive years in their franchise history up until this point. So it's very, very difficult to come to terms with something you've never really had to go through as a fan base.
Yeah. Can you imagine, Pledge, if the Spurs do get into the playoffs with, if the lottery balls fall where they may and they get an 8th and 14th pick?
If they don't, Judd.
Yeah.
If they don't, this coming season is a failure.
I would have to say
I don't care what happens. If you don't make the playoffs this coming season, it is a failure on the organization.
Because the consensus is, with running it back again, you're adding newer pieces in the draft lottery. Here, we don't really know where they're going to pick yet.
Wemby, Castle, Fox.
Yeah.
You've got 3 stars. You better make the playoffs.
I hope they make the playoffs. I really do. But, the one thing that I have a big question mark with, Pledge, is the team's identity. And the team, I think, needs to form some type of identity. We looked at the Spurs in years past when they were on the tear, going into the playoffs for 18 straight seasons there. They were known as a very tough-minded defensive team. Dirty team at times with Robert Horry in the mix, hip-checking Steve Nash notoriously. Bruce Bowen putting the foot out there and having said players land on it. I mean, they had an identity. They were a very physical team. And I think what's happening with this playoffs, and we've seen when you go into the first round of the playoffs or even trying to get into the play-in, the intensity gets amplified. And this Spurs team right now, even though they have talent and they might get more talent and get some pieces to make the team better, the big question mark that I have is, will they be able to withstand the intensity, Pledge?
Yeah, I mean, they're much like, and this is when I see Sam Salinas on our YouTube chat saying define that, Pledge, legit playoff seed or settling for a play in as playoff qualification. No, I mean the playoffs. I mean, you're playing in the first round of the playoffs, and you may get bounced in the first round of the playoffs, much like the Rockets did this year because you ran into a team with more playoff experience. There's going to be learning and steps involved along the way. I mean, look at Oklahoma City last year. Look at Memphis 2-3 years ago. Like, all of these things, everyone has to take a step forward and learn the difference between regular season and playoff basketball and the intensity level and the way games are called. Like, all of these things are going to be new for this team. But they are going to have to get there. That is, to me, you can't not make the playoffs with the roster that you have constructed, at least with the players you have. You have 2 rookies of the year. You have a NBA All-Star, 2 NBA All-Stars, 3 NBA All-Stars if you put Castle in there because of what he did, making it from the Rising Stars into the actual All-Star game, because he played his way in there, because he willed his team into it. Like, yeah, those are teams that need to be able to take that next step. Those are teams that need to be able to play in the playoffs. Now, will you win in the playoffs? That's to be determined. And I understand if you fall short, but you have to at least start taking steps in the right direction. And part of that is making the postseason. You have to be able to play in the postseason. You have to give Wemby and Fox and Castle and Vassell and Keldon, if they're still on this roster, that opportunity to learn what playoff basketball is about. Because nobody outside of Fox on this roster, and depending if you bring Barnes and Castle back, really knows what playoff basketball is.
Yeah, and the thing is that you need to be able to get into the playoffs. This team needs to get into the playoffs because they need that experience. Whether they win or they lose, they need that experience because they need to experience that playoff intensity. And if you look at the Spurs teams in years past with David Robinson at the helm, and they had that dramatic turnaround, that team went to the postseason, but they had an early exit. And that's the thing that I keep telling Spurs fans about, is that it's instrumental for growth for you to actually have these types of obstacles. You have to overcome adversity. You have to overcome that disappointment. You get there into the first round, and then you finally break through, and you get into the second round. Every apron that you go up, second round, you get into the Western Conference Finals, semifinals, that kind of thing. The intensity is just amplified more and more, but every round that you go through is a teaching experience. You know what it takes to not only get there, but also to win. And this is what this Spurs team is going to have to overcome. They're going to have to learn to come together as a unit and also learn to overcome that adversity. They have to figure things out, and you can't figure it out unless you get there. So I'm with you on that. It's either playoffs or bust, Pledge. They have to make it to the playoffs, not just the play-in. And we're going to see what Mitch Johnson can do, too, because his first year as the coach.
Yeah, he got the training wheels ripped off last year in the middle of the season. He has now had a full year to learn on the job. There can't be poor in-game decisions, bad challenges, the rotations, the timeouts. All of these things have to be cleaned up. You got kind of your adjustment period this past season. Mm-hmm. And so now you got to figure it out and move forward. And hopefully with how you move forward with this, that OJT last year, that on-the-job training that he got, can hopefully pay dividends as you start this season with a better understanding of what is expected of you from that first chair.
My expectation for Mitch coming into, this is going to be his team. He's taking the helm. This is going to be his first year as the head coach. I want to see him come out and already know what he has on this team and be able to go ahead and secure those lineups from the get-go. Be able to go ahead and have some type of a lineup that's going to be consistent out there from the get-go. You already know what you have in these players. It's time to stop being cute with the lineups and just have a lineup from the get-go that this is going to be your best team. This is the lineup that's going to give you the best chances of securing a win and moving forward with that team, and let them gel together, and you're going to ride or die with them. Whether they get you into the playoffs or they get you not into the playoffs, you're going to ride with this team, this lineup, and that way you have some continuity. And I got tired of the constant changes. He knows what he has now.
The problem is the changes were due to injuries. A lot of them are. The problem I have with Mitch last year is the dead setness of making Chris Paul the starting point guard and keeping Stephon Castle out of the starting lineup as long as he did. That was, it felt like malpractice in terms of putting the best players on the floor in the best situations, because Stephon Castle does do a great job. Defensively, he can play, one of three positions across the top. And he also does a very good job, more so than even Devin Vassell, of playing off the ball and picking his spots and not commanding the ball in order to be effective. And that's something that is a move that I thought at some point in the season should have been executed literally at any point during the season. We saw early in the season, Stephon Castle was starting because Devin Vassell was coming back from that foot injury still. And it looked really good early in the season. Then they moved Castle to the bench and just reinserted Vassell into the starting lineup, and it was clunky, and it never got unclunky. And that's a problem, because I thought Devin Vassell would work better coming off the bench, where he could just, you got a green light, man. Go get your points. Go get your buckets. This is your show with the second unit. And, sometimes the first unit will slowly mix in and out. But I thought Castle and Wemby were better paired together on the floor than Vassell and Wemby were. And I thought that he held on to, whether it was the fact that Vassell earned it, deserved it, or just his tenure there warranted it, whatever it may be, our eyes told us that that wasn't the best matchup on the floor of talent. And he continually went against that.
Yeah, and you brought up a great point there. Wemby and Vassell on the floor at the same time isn't a good pairing. And I believe the reason behind that is Devin Vassell has to have a lot more touches in order to go ahead and get his points per game. And that means that he has to have the ball in his hand. So that takes the ball away from Wemby, and it makes Wemby play in a different manner than he's comfortable in, because of the way Devin Vassell plays out there on the court. I think that a move needs to be had at some juncture there by Mitch, and maybe Devin is best served coming off the bench with that second unit. I think that would be the perfect addition there, because it allows him to work. He can get his touches, but then you also have Keldon Johnson, who is arguably the team's best six man out there, and he can help spread the floor open a little bit more and let Vassell work. So I think it's going to be best served with Vassell coming off the bench. But again, we don't make those decisions. It's up to Mitch, but he's already seen, if you look at that analytical data, Wemby and Vassell on the floor at the same time, it's not a pairing that's good analytically, So hope he makes the change.
Jason Garcia on our YouTube live feed says, James, that felt like a Pop move, not a Mitch move. Well, this is Mitch teams now moving forward. So I expect him to make the moves on the rotation that clearly benefit this team moving forward, and not playing favorites with who's been here or how you feel about someone and what they've done for this organization over the last 4 or 5 years, which is nothing but miss the playoffs every single year. At this point, this is Mitch's team. This is Mitch's roster. Mitch needs to make the decisions that best benefit these lineups moving forward.
Yeah, we're going to have to wear those shirts now, Pledge, that says playoffs or bust.
Hey, I mean, it should be the expectation. At this point, as soon as the ping pong balls landed on Wemby, you had torn this team to the ground in terms of having to be bad enough to get that pick. You've now had to take the time to build this roster back up into a playoff contending roster. And I think that's what we missed is, like, we expected we got Tim, let's go chase a title with Wemby. But the problem was those were two different rosters. Those were a bunch of injuries. This was a roster that was deconstructed that you now have to build back up into a championship caliber roster. And there are significant holes on it, and you have to fill those holes. And this is going to be a very important offseason for Brian Wright in terms of making this roster a team and putting the best pieces that fit what this team needs, whether that's in the draft with the Con Kneipel, or the kid from Illinois, or maybe the big man from Duke. like whoever it
nipple.
may be, you need certain pieces to this roster to help complete it.
Yeah. You know, one of the intriguing pieces to me is the big man that they have. And he doesn't get a lot of shine, but I like him nonetheless because he's so young. If the
Who?
Spurs were to get somebody by the name of Asa Newell, I think
Oh
he would
yeah,
be a good addition. He's just very young, very inexperienced, but he's very raw. This would be a project long term if you were to go
sure.
ahead and draft him, you know? But I like
You're
him.
not taking a project that high though.
No, not that high. Not that high. He would have to be something that you're going to get. Maybe if you look at him at the 14th pick, if he's there.
And I alluded to this earlier. Let's say you get 8 and 14. Let's say you get 5 and 10. You know, whatever it may be. Let's figure out where the Spurs are picking.
Yeah.
How about if you trade those picks for proven talent? What if you use those picks in a player to go get a Cam Johnson? What if you start, instead of continuing to keep this roster young, you start going and getting proven NBA talent with these assets that you have once you figure out where they're at?
Yeah, one of the
That's
things
going to be the big thing about Brian Wright this offseason is what does he do once the draft lottery is set?
Yeah, because one of the things that's been floating around here is the possibility of the Spurs, after we find out where the lottery balls fall for them, what if they move up a little bit and then they decide, you know what? What if we package these 2 draft picks that we have, along with maybe another little bit of draft capital they have because they have tons of it, and they actually move up and they get a top 4 NBA draft pick?
Sure.
That would be, you see, to me, it's like quality
But
over
outside of
quantity in a
Flag,
way.
who do you really want in this draft? I'm not huge on Eighth Bailey. Like I know what the top of this draft looks like. I'm not blown away by anything.
By the talent, yeah. Unless there's a guy that you absolutely have to have, talent-wise, that you're like, that's my guy. That's the guy that I want on this team. He's going to make a dramatic impact in it. If they feel that way about somebody and they go ahead and make a move, okay, I can feel that. But I'm kind of with you as well because I don't really see somebody that's going to fit that mold right now. I mean, you have a lot of guys that are coming in, and it's not a knock on them. If you're getting a top 4 pick, the consensus is you're getting somebody who's going to be more than likely NBA ready.
How long do we want to go with the thought process of, well, this team's young. It's the youngest team in the NBA. They have to learn.
Man.
If you keep adding young players and
Getting
trading
older.
away the older ones, you're giving yourself that excuse all over again for this organization to be like, they're young, they're learning, they have to grow together, et cetera, et cetera. At some point, get some veterans on this team. Bring back Harrison Barnes. Like he was a great addition to this team, I thought. And if you can add him along with Fox and go out and add another person that helps to bring some experience to this roster, that's a great move. That's something that this team needs in order to move forward.
Yeah. You know what we called Harrison Barnes. We called him the Toyota Corolla of the team. You know, he's not sexy by any means, but you know what? He is the guy that gets it done day in and day out. He's the most consistent player that they had on this roster. He goes out there, you know what you're going to get out of him, and he goes out there and produces every damn night. We need more guys like Harrison Barnes, man. That way, if you know your stars are having an off night, you know what you're going to get out of your role players.
I'm tired of their young excuse. I mean,
they're not young anymore.
Look at the other teams that are going forward. Look at the Thunder. Look at the Rockets that have taken a step forward. Look at the Orlando Magic that have taken a step forward. Look at the Cleveland Cavaliers who have taken a big step forward. I know they're in a 3-1 hole right now, but I mean, the Pacers. Like, these are teams that were young, a lot of young talent on them, Nembhard, you know, all these other Halliburton, and they're taking steps forward. You need to take steps forward as an organization. And part of that may be bringing in some older veterans to help.
Yeah, maybe the acronym of, oh, this is still a young player. These are still young players on this team. This is still a young team. It hasn't been a young team for a little bit already because some of your younger players, you could say that back then. Keldon Johnson, he's not young
Keldon
anymore.
Johnson was here before COVID.
Exactly. He's not young anymore, you know? I think what you're mistaking here, Spurs fans, is when the Spurs say this is still a young team, what they're really trying to tell you, kind of low key, is that this is a bad team. You know, they're still not going to be that team that's going to get you, like you said, to the playoffs. They're not a very good team. And I think that's what they try to hide with that young acronym at times. Oh, the inexperience. Oh, it's like these just the players that you have surrounding your guys, like Wemby, like Fox, like Castle. You know, you have a Vassell maybe and a Keldon, and you have a bunch of guys, man. Like you said, you need to get a better quality of role player on this team. And I think that would be the difference maker that can go ahead and solidify you going into the playoffs and actually maybe winning the damn game.
Guys you can trust
Yeah.
in a role.
Battle
Like,
tested.
who trusts, and I like him. He's a good player. I don't like him as a starter, obviously. But Julian Champagnie, why are we relying so heavily on Julian Champagnie?
Mike calls him cardio. He calls him cardio.
I get it, but like he serves a function on this team. He is one of the better 3-point shooters you have on this team, unfortunately. But you have to upgrade that.
Yeah. And you still have like players like Wesley, Malachi Branham, you know, and gone,
Get him
Pledge.
out. Get him out. What have they done?
Not much, man.
What have they developed into anything to this point?
No.
Have they shown any growth?
No.
Then you can't keep adding young players and keeping all these other young players that aren't making an impact.
Yeah.
The roster's only so big, 15 players. When you're adding 2 young guys per year, unless you're trading those picks to get a proven veteran, like there's attrition somewhere. You can't keep adding young players, 2, 3, 4 young players every year and expect to be active in free agency and keep the players that you have on the roster. There's not enough room. It is a finite resource. 15 players on a roster. There's going to be turnover, and it's going to be at the back and the front end of this roster. Like if Julian Champagnie falls out of the starting lineup to like an 8th or a 9th or 10th player on this roster, that's a better spot for him, in my opinion. And I would feel much better about the depth of this team.
Yeah, the thing with that is that they still have these players that are just kind of very inconsistent. And you need to go ahead and get the roster better by getting out there and going and picking up some of these veterans and free agency and bringing them along, putting them with this team. They can go
free
ahead
agency
and help
trade. I don't care how
Something.
you get
Just
them.
do
Just
it.
get them in the building.
They need to get better.
The assets, and you can't use all of your assets. So start using said assets to upgrade your roster.
And you know what? You just went ahead and solidified our good friend Chris Leha, because he says all his battle cry all the time, and I'm with him on that one, is F them picks. Package those picks together. Maybe go out there and get some veterans,
Don't F them, but start using them.
Yeah.
Because right now they're a waste. You've got what you need out of the picks currently. You've got Castle, who I believe is budding into a star. Now, could he be Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, a rookie of the year that just kind of peters off because like his game never develops? I don't know. Maybe. He doesn't strike me as that type of guy, but I mean, he is definitely a player on this team. You're talking about the 3rd best player on this team. That's a really good start. If you bring in more talent and bump him down to 4th or 5th, that's also great. But he provides athleticism. He works on defense, which is something you can't say about a lot of people in this league. And he has explosiveness. If he develops a shot, he becomes a freaking monster.
I was going to ask you a question here as we start bringing things to a close. Jeremy Sohan, he's going to be coming up here in a contract year. More than likely what's going to happen in the free market.
Do you want to give him 20 to 30 million?
Exactly. Is he worth that much? And, he's going to, if he explores free agency, that's what he's probably going to garner out there. Can you get another veteran that can be had for less, that can do the same thing he can?
Yes. Jeremy, I guess Mike likes to call Julian Champagne cardio. There is no better version of cardio than Jeremy Sohan. That dude plays at 11, and that's cool. You need that. Like, is Draymond Green worth the $100 million the Warriors are paying him? No, but he's kind of an important asset to a team that was constructed the way it was constructed. So I understood why they paid him. The Spurs aren't there. They don't need to overspend on a Draymond Green right now at this part of their development, because you can find another guy that's just going to be your hustle guy, which is what Jeremy Sohan is. He's a hustle guy. He's a dirty guy. He's get in there, get rebounds, play defense, aggravate people. He does the things that Draymond Green does in a less, bleep holy way, right? Yeah. But that's what he is. That's what his skill set is. Like he's a garbage guy around the rim. He finishes 6 feet and in. Like that's who he is. But I'm not paying that much for a guy that shoots 20-something% from three and is under 50% from the field. That's you can find a guy that's gonna just give you effort much cheaper.
Yeah. And I'm with you on that one. And you have a lot of Spur fans here that have just become enamored with Sohan. He's a fan favorite because he paints his hair blue or green or what have you. Go
find a guy that likes to dye his hair. They'll love him too.
Exactly, man. Would you all love winning more without
If I
Sohan?
draft you in the second round, would you dye your hair a different color every month?
Yeah. I'm saying at the end of the day, it's like it's more than just the color of the hair. It's the product on the court. And if you can get somebody that can fill the role, can be had for less, and can have more of an impact on the game and give you more wins, possibly get you into the playoffs, I'm for it.
Jeremy doesn't do the things that Draymond does that makes him important to Golden State, and only Golden State. Let's face it, if Draymond Green's on any other team in the NBA, that is a waste of freaking money. Jeremy is important to this team, but at a price point. And if he thinks that he's worth more, go get it, my friend. Like, more power to you. Yeah. Because, and this is something that maybe you're going to have a conversation with Wemby. Maybe Wemby's tight with him. I don't know. But you're going to have to tell Wemby, look, to have a De'Aaron Fox, to go get Cam Johnson or something. Like, we're going to have to say goodbye to some of these other players like Devin that's making 30 and like Jeremy that's going to command whatever. Like, we can't pay everyone $30 to $50 million. You're about to have to get paid that much. It's not feasible to be able to do this in a salary cap league. And we all know the Spurs aren't a team that, unless they're competing for championships, is really going to go over that tax threshold.
Yeah, they're not going to want to go up into those higher aprons.
Decisions are going to have to be made. And players like Jeremy, players like Devin, players that you can find their production at cheaper price points, you're going to have to move on from them, even if they're fan favorites.
Yeah, it's just the nature of the business. At the end of the day, Spur fan, would you rather see your team get into the playoffs and win, or would you rather keep your fan favorite and not even make the play-in, or barely get into the play-in and not even get past that? That would be to me and you, that would be a failure of a season, because you've gone on record and said it's playoffs or bust, and I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that one.
You can't. You've run out of excuses. Yeah. You've traded for his running mate in De'Aaron Fox. You have another rookie of the year in Stephon Castle. And you've paid Vassell and Keldon like they're big-time producers. It's time for them to show it then. And if they're not, then you need to unload them and bring in players that are. Because you have had the opportunity to turn this roster around. It is now on you that is beholden to find the pieces to best fit. Like, we can't always, Wemby's this anomaly. We're still trying to figure out how to play with them. No, he's been here for 2 years. you know what he does, and you know what needs to be put around him to make a team successful. To the obvious basketball fan, it is you need floor spacers and you need a presence down low. Whether it's a presence that gives you 20 minutes or whether it's a presence that gives you 35 minutes, you need to find a presence to protect Wemby in that lineup and garner fouls and clean things up around the rim and bang with the bigger bigs that like to be physical so that Wemby can be Wemby. And you need to find guys that can shoot three-pointers at a high clip of either 36% or more from behind the arc. That is what this team needs, whether it's guys coming off picks or whether it's guys standing out there in the corner wide open. You need snipers surrounding Wemby, and you need a big to protect Wemby. Those are things that this team is missing on a consistent basis, and it is beholden on Brian Wright, Greg Popovich, and this organization to put those pieces in place around him now.
Yeah, one of the things, too, that I've seen that's plagued this Spurs offense in the past seasons, even last year, is the lack of movement in said offense. It seems like everybody when they come up the court, and they're getting in transition there, and they just stand around.
That's on coaching.
Why are you standing around? You have to have fluidity to the offense. You have to have basic fundamental basketball being played out there if you don't have the talent to compete at that level. You have to do something. Get back to the basics. Get back to your fundamentals. And that was a lack, as you said, of coaching out there, where everybody's just standing around in positions that they know they have no business standing around in.
It's one of two things, Joe. It's either coaching or it's the players themselves.
The IQ?
And which also falls back on the coaching if you're not reprimanding or putting some sort of punishment in place, pulling them, cutting their minutes for being lazy on the court and not following coaching instruction. So no matter what, it falls back on the coaching, but it also could just be bad players or at least bad habits that they've ingrained through these 7 years of losing and trying to be bad to get high draft picks.
Yeah, I mean, you've seen what other teams do, for example. They come out and set a pick, or they go ahead and set a screen. They set multiple screens. You have some movement going on into the offense. We don't have a Sohan standing out behind the three-point line when you can't shoot threes.
Steph Curry, and one of the reasons probably his hamstring has a strain, ran 2 miles in that game 7 against the Rockets. Just constant movement. Screen, just not staying. 2 miles he ran while he was on the floor. And we've seen it before. Steph is one of the best movers without the basketball in the NBA, period. Yep. The dude's conditioning is on point. But, I mean, you got to do what needs to be done, or you need to move on from the players that won't do it. And JHNSB on our YouTube chat says, we can always teach them to shoot, no pledge. Can you? They haven't developed a shooter since Chip England left. Not one player has gotten better. Yeah. So can they?
Not anymore. Not since he's left. I mean, they're trying to fix Sohan's shot. And you see him in the offseason practicing on the shot.
Oklahoma City's gotten better at shooting.
Oh, because they got Chip? Only if they could get him back. They should have never let him go. He was an instrumental piece for this team, But, I mean, they got a lot of things they got to work on in this offseason. One of those things is going to be, how is the team going to respond to Mitch at the helm now? This is his team. I just want to see him get better. I don't want to see him stand around. I want to see some fluidity to the offense. Basic fundamental basketball that you see other teams running out there. People aren't just standing around. If you stand around, the offense gets stagnant. And the bad thing is that this Spurs team doesn't shoot the ball very well. You don't have that luxury, man. You got to do something. Show me something. Poke them with the stick, pledge. Do something.
But same thing we've been complaining for the first 2 games about the Boston Celtics. This is one of the worst 30-point shooting teams in the league, yet they consistently jack up a ton of threes. At some point, attack the rim. You're not good at what you're doing. And unless they're actually falling that day, stop. Find something else to do.
What's the going back to just shooting a 2? I mean, I know you have to shoot a lot of threes in today's NBA, but if you're not a team that's adept to shooting the 3, what's wrong with just getting 2 points? It has the same impact,
Analytics, in a way, killed the game.
True. True enough. But you know what, Pledge? I want to say thank you, man, for joining me today here to talk basketball. It's always a pleasure to have you on the show talking basketball with me, especially on, it's such a day as today where we're going to be seeing where the lottery balls fall for the Spurs for the NBA
especially
draft
when
lottery.
you have to load manage Mike every other day. I mean, it's
load management.
difficult.
He's the
he
Kawhi.
is the Kawhi of San Antonio sports talk radio.
He is right now. We're gonna give him a lot of shit tomorrow when he comes in as well. But you know what? I like having you on the show. It's a pleasure having you, Pledge. And let them know where they can follow you, man, because you do have a show that comes out on ESPN.
I do. I mean, you can follow me on San Antonio Sports Star 941 on FM. We broadcast everything on YouTube. You can comment along like you're doing here, and I'll read at it. 6 to 7, except for today, because we are going to air the draft lottery, because that's a huge deal. And I produce the Blitz from 2 to 6. The Blitz will be live out at the Root Pub, where they're doing it again, just like Wemby. And we have 2 chances this year. If the Spurs land the number 1 pick, the Root Pub's picking up everybody's open tab at that point in time. So head out to the Root Pub today, 281 Redland Road, right there next to the Angry Elephant. Jason and Joe will be broadcasting live 2 to 6. Go have some beers, enjoy yourself, have some dinner. And if we get lucky again, it's all on the house, baby.
There you go. So make sure you all go and support my boy Pledge out there. You're going to be out there at the Root Pub, one of his favorite spots in San Antonio. So go out there and have a great time and watch the NBA draft lottery. All right, Pledge.
I appreciate you, Joe. It's always good to hop on and talk with you, my guy.
Yes, sir, man. Appreciate you. So for James Pledger here, I'm Joe Garcia. Thank you guys for watching another episode of the Area 210 podcast. Thank you so much again. We're out. We'll see you boys tomorrow. Peace.